the Outreach and Event at Columbia Slough Watershed Council. So lots of familiar faces on this call and plenty of folks that I haven't met yet. So I'm excited to be working with y'all this upcoming paddle season. We have a mix of people. It's their first time joining us, and a lot of people who have done this for years and years. Would appreciate it if folks could put their name, their pronouns, if you'd like to share, as well as if this is your first time joining paddle team or if you've done this before, in the chat. Would love to circle around and introduce everybody, but we have almost 30 people on the call today. So in an effort to save time, just drop that in the chat, please. And as far as the presentation goes today, you are welcome to leave questions in the chat as we go. We have a couple of folks from our staff who are going to be monitoring and trying to answer questions as we go along. And then there will be room for Q&A at the very end if you don't get questions. And I'm sure most of you saw, but we are going to be recording this presentation. So folks that weren't able to join today, or if anybody has to hop off early, they'll have access to all this information as well. And please make sure to keep yourself muted. And again, please utilize the chat for questions. So with that, we will get started. Kenny, can you do the next slide? So as far as agenda goes today, you're going to be hearing from a number of people, myself, as well as a couple of other staff members. I'll let them introduce themselves a little more in depth once it's their turn, as well as a couple of our paddle team leaders and someone from our board. And we're going to be reviewing the Columbia Slough Watershed Council mission, history, a little bit about our staff, learning about watersheds, what our programming looks like, as well as paddle events. There will be a little bit of a break in the middle to grab a snack, bio break, anything that you might need in the middle. And then going into more of what it means to be a paddle team member, talking about our racial equity and vision statement, inclusive language, microaggressions, how to sign up for shifts, and then again, room for Q&A at the very end as well. And next slide. So a little bit about Columbia Slough Watershed Council. Our mission is to protect and enhance the Columbia Slough and the watershed through community engagement, education, and restoration. At the moment, we have 5 full-time staff members as well as 4 part-time staff. It's the largest staff that we've had in quite some time, which allows us to dig into more of our programming, offer more community opportunities, and bring on more paddle team members. The council was founded in 1994 to address water pollution in the Columbia Slough. And as an urban waterway in North and Northeast Portland, we cover Portland, Gresham, Fairview, all in Multnomah County. And as a result of the council's advocacy, the combined sewer overflows within the watershed were successfully eliminated in around 2000. Water quality has steadily and drastically improved, which has led to increased environmental health and benefits for fish and people all living and utilizing the Columbia Slough. The staff, as I said, there's 9 of us on staff, and come summertime, we'll actually have 2 interns as well. They come to us through Project Zero, and folks who are working with us this summer will definitely get a chance to meet and work with those people quite a bit too. And Kenny, you can go to the next slide. It's a little bit about, excuse me, watersheds. For folks who aren't familiar, within Multnomah County, we have a number of different watersheds, and essentially watersheds are made up of, there's the higher location within the watershed, and all of the precipitation is draining down into one area. So within the Columbia Slough, we border the Willamette River watershed, as well as the Johnson Creek watershed, and then the Columbia River to the north. So these high points within that location are all draining into the Columbia Slough. Let's see. And within our watershed, we're on the traditional lands of the Upper Chinook peoples, as well as traditional resting sites for the Multnomah, Clackamas, Calpooya, and Cascade bands of Chinook. It's a lot of interesting history within the spaces that we are hosting events, which more to come on that as well. And Kenny, you can go to the next slide, and I will pass it off to one of our paddle team leaders, Zora.
Hello, everyone. Welcome. So excited to see you all here. So our watershed is separated by the Columbia by two levee systems, and that are maintained by 4 government entities called drainage district. And there's a lot more to talk about, but not today. There is a levee under the Marine Drive. So when you drive on Marine Drive, this is actually a levee next to the Columbia, and it creates a northern border. And then the southern boundary is the Alameda Ridge, which is deposited during the Missoula flood and is carved to Columbia River Gorge. There are multiple cross levees, which are creating a passage barriers for canoeing on the slough, and is also helping to control the water in there. The Columbia South Shore well is in our watershed, and there's about 20% of the drinking water comes from there from each year. And then you see all the statistics here. I'm going through a couple of them because they're pretty amazing. There is the whole watershed has 60 miles of lakes and wetlands of slow moving channels. The Columbia Slough itself is 19 miles long, so that starts at Fairview Lake and goes all the way to Kelly Point. There are over 32,000 acres of land in Multnomah County in the watershed. And these are all the districts of Portland, Fairview, Gresham, Wood Village, and Maywood Park. These are all the cities within the watershed. Some of the entities in there are the Port of Portland, 2 airports, 4 marine terminals, 3 major interstates, 40+ schools, and 5 golf courses. So as you can see, there's a lot going on in our watershed. Kenny, next slide, please. This slide gives you just a little bit an idea of the socioeconomic vulnerability, which is higher than average in most other areas of Multnomah County. So the darker color is the more vulnerability. So the graph shows you the vulnerability of people living within the watershed, and it's a measurement method from PSU by Professor Dr. Lisa Bates. And you can see that the Columbia watershed, the Columbia Slough has quite a highly diverse area. And just a reference before I go into some of the numbers here, the data was collected by 2 resources. One is a graph, which is from the 2019 American Community Survey data, and then a 2020 census data. And so with that, I was want to note, these are government data, so they're going by government standards. So there's probably some variation if you would read other reports, but it gives you a good indication where we are, and it's a good comparison. So within the watershed, we have 4,200 businesses and about 170,000 residents. From that are 10% Hispanic and Latinx, 10% Black or African American, 10% people of Asian descent, and 3 to 4% American Indian or Alaska Native. And then you see the criteria they're using for the vulnerability criteria, which is race, poverty status, excuse me, limited speaking English status, housing tenure, education attainment, and an access to information technology and to transportation. Kenny, next slide, and I'm passing it back to Amanda. Oh, actually to Liz.
Yes, hello. So to talk about the program area, some of you all might recognize me. I am Liz. I am currently working as the Slough School Educating Assistant. Formerly was the Project Zero intern with the Stewardship Department. To talk about the Slough School, so our Slough School is ran by Jennifer Starkey, the program director. And the program, we provide free K through 12 in-class field trip lessons. They prioritize schools that receive Title I funding. And of the students that we work with, 88% qualify for free lunch and 69% are student of color, which is amazing. we deliver over 300 different programs annually, which include classroom lessons, field trips, and paddles, all the fun stuff. And we support, the program is all about supporting by learning about habitats, ecosystems, water chemistry, soil, environmental justice, local history, and so much more. And of course, the goals for the program is make sure our students are having a safe and positive experience in natural areas around their homes and in the community, and have fun having fun hands-on experiences with classroom lessons. Next slide, please. A little bit about the stewardship program. Our stewardship program is led by Max Samuelson, the stewardship director. It focuses on habitat restoration and enhancement projects in the watershed, ranging from traditional habitat work like riparian restoration to green forest work development with youth of color and tons of different youth. And they also focus on green infrastructure as a key strategy for mitigating and adapting to climate change. And that is a little bit about our programs. On to the next slide. To Amanda.
Back to me. Our third pillar within the program areas is community events. The goal within community event programming is to have fun and free ways for folks to access nature and finding meaningful connections between other community members and finding connection with the slough in general. The types of events that we host are really broad in range. This year, we're hosting a number of forest bathing and mindfulness events, as well as nature walks, community science talks, birding walks, bicycling events. We have our slough celebration, it's an annual celebration in May, as well as owl and bat walks, art-related events, and of course, why you all are all here is paddles. And next slide. As far as paddle event categories, we can break it down into 5 kind of key categories. The first one is the community guided paddles. These are events that are open to all people and they'll be posted on the website. Some of the, some of these events can be for specific community groups, but again, they're open for everybody to access and sign up as they wish. They can have a lot of different kinds of themes to them. This last Saturday, actually, we went out to Smith and Bybee, did a birding paddle. It was fantastic, 65-degree weather for a great way to wrap up this winter. We'll do a sunset paddle, pride paddle, educational paddles with birding and bats, etc. And then partner guided paddles are co-hosted with another organization. So these are often with nonprofits or community groups, schools, things like that. And again, these can be posted on the website for anyone to access, and some of them can be private, so specific to people who are involved with that nonprofit or community group. In 2023, we have a lot of returning partners as well as some new ones that we'll be working with. For example, People of Color Outdoors, who we've hosted a lot of events with, Bird Hers, Portland Parks, Black Men's Wellness, Gather Make Shelter, Betty's 360, Slavic Community Center, and definitely a lot more this season. And next slide. Next up, we have bilingual paddles. This year, we'll be hosting paddles in English, Spanish, Ukrainian, Russian, and Zomi. These events are supported by bilingual paddle team members. So we have I know that some folks are on this call tonight, and then we'll be hosting another paddle team training in Spanish, as well as in Russian and Ukrainian, a little bit closer to summer. In 2022, we hosted 6 bilingual events, and we're looking to at least double that this year by offering translation services, primarily in Spanish and Ukrainian, at events throughout the paddle season. So looking forward to incorporating that into more programming. We also have cleanup paddles. So we have our, we have our Great Slough Cleanup that happens every year. This year it's going to be on July 8th. This is a one-day event where we're having events pop up throughout the slough. Last year we hosted 3 events throughout the watershed. This year we are looking to expand that in having more events on July 8th. And then beyond that, we've changed to hosting monthly cleanups. We've hosted 3 so far this year, one in January, one in February, and in March, we just did an on the water event out at Whitaker Ponds. So we anticipate as the weather gets a little bit warmer, we'll have more on water cleanups that folks on paddle team are definitely can be supporting that. And beyond that, we have SLU school events. So we host canoe weeks in May and June where groups of students are coming out and spending the day at Whitaker Ponds. And then additional school group events. And next slide. And to touch actually a little bit more on different roles at these events, there's a lot of ways that paddle team members are helping with each of these. People can be captaining bimarans, they can be doing check-in, fitting people for life jackets, helping with setup, helping with takedowns. These are all different roles that paddle team members are really crucial in making these events happen. And as far as trainings go, all of you are at step 1, so thank you. This is required for anybody who's going to be participating in paddle team this year. Step 2 is attending the April 1st training. At this training, we're going to be reviewing safety procedures, going over what it means to set up and take down an event, going over safety talks, how to be an on-water guide, and safety monitor. Lunch will be provided at this training, and registration details will be coming soon to your inbox. Additional and optional training is an extra on-water training on April 20th. It's going to be an evening paddle out at 166 and Airport Way. We'll have more of an opportunity to put what we've learned into action and practice rescues and demonstrate other safety scenarios. And as I mentioned, we're going to be doing the Ukrainian and Russian training. That one will be June 25th, and the Spanish training details will be coming soon. And next slide. Well, we actually cruised through really fast our first half of the presentation. We're actually just going to take a couple minute break, 5-minute break if you want to grab a snack, refill a drink, use bathroom, and we will be back at 6:25.
Name in the chat. And if you want to include your pronouns, you may do so. I just want to record everyone who's here because some of the names are not what we have for your signups. Thank you so much.
And while on the break, Anne had asked if you're not able to attend the weekend training, if there's still a way to participate. And there is. The in-person training is just for folks who didn't attend in 2022, as well as for new folks. And then we will have other opportunities to train when we train our interns, as well as perhaps at the one of our other bilingual trainings. So yes, Anne, there's definitely a way to still participate. If anybody else is worried about making that April 1st training, please don't hesitate to send myself or Kenny an email and we can work through that with you. And with that, I am going to pass it over to May, who's one of our board members and also paddle team leader.
Hey, all. So I'm doing this. What does it mean to be a paddle team member? And, you know, you'd think I can do this with one arm tied behind my back, blindfolded, and I can, but it's kind of like I have to limit it to like 5 minutes because there is so much to this. So my name is May, and I have been a board member on the council for about 12 years now, on give or take a couple of years. And I actually first identify as a paddle team member first, because I think that is just one of the best ways of serving the council. And it's just the most gratifying part of the experience. So let me launch into what it means. And we kind of call ourselves council ambassadors in being a paddle team member. We help people understand what we do, why it's important, help folks have a safe and fun experience on the water, and create meaningful connections to nature. If we do that, hopefully they'll want to protect it too and come back for more. Probably the most important component of this role is to make everyone feel welcome. At the council, we strive to create an inclusive environment, allowing all communities to feel safe, welcome, and supported. A component of creating an inclusive community requires that we all be mindful of our language. And I'm going to, we will talk about that language later. So let's just go on to our racial equity and vision statement. So this is the Columbia Slough Watershed Council's racial equity and vision statement. We as an environmental organization recognize that our country's long history of racism has served to disenfranchise Black, Indigenous, and people of color in our communities. We recognize that the Columbia Slough watershed, racist land use, housing, economics, and transportation policies and practices have put BIPOC community members at a disproportionately higher risk to environmental pollution, natural hazards, and climate change impacts. We've also set up unique barriers for BIPOC community members to safely enjoy local natural areas and outdoor recreation with differential access and representation. As an organization, we believe that everyone deserves to experience the solace of time in nature and not be burdened by an unhealthy environment. We believe that the Columbia Slough is for everyone, and as an organization, we pledge to make that a reality. We value the rich diversity of the communities in our watershed and are committed to learning from one another through collaborative engagement with the community and our partners. Let's get to the inclusive language. In our inclusive language, we want our ambassadors to be thoughtful, and we want everyone, as in our guests, as well as each other, to feel welcome. We want to use phrases that are gender neutral, and we want to not use exclusive terms. And one of the examples being use community members instead of citizens. We want to use people's preferred gender pronouns, she, her, he, him, they, them. And we want to say women or woman versus girls for anyone that's 18 years old. Women or women is a better choice. And my personal unfavorite is gals. So we want to ensure that we are addressing people with the pronoun that they identify with. All individuals want and need to be correctly identified. It is important that we as a community all use and model the use of correct gender and gender pronouns. Our goal is to create a safe and welcoming environment in which we can all explore the Columbia Slough, attend our events, volunteer, and engage with our organizations and feel like they are included. And we are going to send out, there is a thing called microaggressions, which are more than just insults, and they are insensitive comments. There's something very specific, the kinds of remarks, questions, or actions that are painful because they have to do with a person's membership in a group that's discriminated against or subject to stereotypes. As a key part of what makes them so disconcerting is that they happen casually, frequently, and often without any harm in everyday life. And we are going to make a couple of video clip links available to you. And I think someone is supposed to post those in the chat. And feel free to watch them at your convenience. Let's go to the next slide, please. And there is a very convenient list of terms that we would prefer that you use and to avoid. And I'll just read these. So use folks, friends, we all, you all, people, all of you, and avoid ladies and gentlemen and you guys. Use community members and avoid citizens. Use she, her, he, him, they, them, zezer. Ask if you are unsure and avoid hey. And for 18 years and older, use women or woman and avoid gals. Any questions on those? Okay. Somebody's supposed to drop those links in the chat. So if you will do that, that would be wonderful. And
Yes, I had a question.
yeah, hi, Carolyn.
Hi, how are you?
Yeah.
About, you said don't use, I couldn't pull up the thing. You said don't use, what are the ones you don't want us to use, say?
To avoid ladies and gentlemen, and to use the more gender neutral folks, friends, we all, you all, people. And so
Okay,
just
thank you. I see it now.
okay, great. Was that you?
Okay,
Okay.
one question I have, since you brought all this up, I wanted to mention ageism. What is the age range that you're allowed to be a part of this? Because part of this group.
A part of this group. I don't think there's an age range. We would prefer that, I think 16 and above. Anybody else have a different opinion?
Yep, 16 and up.
I think if you're old enough to carry a boat, carry a paddle and paddle, I don't think we have any, yeah, I would say 16 and above, Carolyn.
Oh, okay, because, you know, sometimes I just felt it could just be me. Well, I shouldn't be doing this because I'm the oldest one, or, you know, this is for youth. So sometimes when we say youth and okay, this is for the youth. So we know that, I know that when I hear that, I'm like, oh, well, I can't be a part of this because this is for the youth.
Not at all. We would love to have you be a part of this, and please, I hope to meet you someday in person.
Okay, well, thank you. Thank you.
All right.
Great
Okay,
question.
I'll pass this off to Kenny.
Thank you.
next.
Well, welcome y'all. My name's Kenny. I am the volunteer coordinator, so you'll be hearing a lot from me this paddle season. I want to introduce you to something new this year. This is the paddle team portal, and it will include resources specifically for paddle team members. So the paddle team portal is only accessible by password for paddle team members. You'll have a pending status as a volunteer until you take a background check. So we have mandatory background checks for everyone on paddle team. Pretty simple form. You fill it out, send it to myself, and it'll be done. And I will let you know when that's finished. And then we also will on the paddle team portal will have background checks for working with youth. So we have, as you saw earlier, we have many youth-specific paddles, both for SLU school programs and for other partners. And to volunteer with these student and youth groups, an additional background checks needed. And additionally, with working with these youth paddles, you will also need to have a COVID-19 vaccination, and there are no exceptions. These background checks are free, and I highly recommend completing both of them because kids say the darndest things, and they have so much to learn from all of you. On the paddle team portal, you'll also find a paddle team handbook. You'll find a copy of this webinar, some other videos, guides, and more resources to come. All right. So in addition to that paddle team portal, we have a paddle team calendar. So we are going to load our canoe right now, and we're going to paddle right in to what that looks like. All right, you all see that? So here's a link to the paddle team calendar. As I mentioned, password protected. All right, so I'm going to just skip on over to May. Oh, wait, nope, I apologize. To April. So here's a quick look at an event. I'm going to simply just click on April 7th. It's as simple as picking a date and reading about it. So for example, here, it indicates that this is a youth paddle. Excuse me, this is a youth paddle. And you'll have to have that mandatory background check to do that. There's a brief description of the event, who we're partnering with, and then you can also, apologize, I'll fix this issue here where you can't click on this link to Helen's View, but then you can learn more about the specific partner org that or a group that we're working with, if that piques your interest. I'm going to go back. Let's take a look here at the 22nd. So again, this tells you about this event, the organization, and then we're going to just sign up to volunteer. Say this is the date you want to sign up. So each event registration for paddle team members is limited to the number of volunteers needed, plus one or more waitlist spots. This means that if someone else cannot attend, you'll take their place to volunteer at the event. So you just put in your information, say that, hey, you don't have to be there, but you're available if needed. You just say that you want to be the one, right? This means I'm going to be the wait list, and then I'll register. After you register here, the next person that goes up to sign up, there won't be any more waitlist spots available. So that means we've got our waitlist covered, and then everyone else who wants to sign up will fill those spaces. All right. So I'm going to jump back in to our presentation. There we are. All right. So remember that the events vary. Some will be youth-specific groups, others will be multilingual. So read the event details carefully to ensure that you have the appropriate background needed for each of those as you sign up. And then prior to the event, I will contact the pedal team members who've signed up, and I'll share more details about the event and the roles that are available. And yeah, there you are.
So I just want to kind of review some. So we're going to get an email to these, or there's going to be a I asked you that because as you were doing that, I went to the site and it says get involved, volunteer, right? It shows a volunteer list, volunteer paddle team. I see the guidebook, right?
Mhm.
But as you went through that, when it said volunteer, right? You mentioned something about a volunteer portal, correct?
Correct.
Okay, and where's that located at? Are we going to get a link to that? Because I don't see that here so far.
Yep, that's coming up. So let's keep going, and Amanda will explain a little bit more.
Okay.
But yeah, you're going to get all that information after this event or after this webinar. All right, back to you, Amanda.
Thank you. Yeah, someone in the chat and you, Daryl, are beating me to this, and I did the ultimate oops, and the links don't work in the email I just sent. So after this webinar, I'll be following up with a link that has the paddle team portal, the paddle team calendar, as well as registration links for all this stuff.
Sorry, Amanda, I just want to jump in.
Yeah.
So on the paddle team webpage, if you go to volunteer to paddle team, where it says all the steps to register for this webinar and to join the paddle team, there are also links. Links number or step 3 and step 4 have active links that will work if you want to check that out now before we send you the updated link.
Could you say that again? Because you
Yeah.
said, so where it says what again?
So you can hop onto our website,
I am.
get involved,
I am.
volunteer,
Mhm.
and then paddle team.
Okay, so yeah, I see the workbook there. And if
And
I
then
click
on the
that,
right hand side of that page where it says the paddle team page, it has steps to get involved. And it's steps 3 and 4 have links. But to remind you, they are password protected, and the email that we'll send
okay,
you will have the
I'm
password.
sorry. So when you say get involved, right? So I hit the paddle team link,
Mhm.
right? Or where it says learn more, right?
Correct.
And then you said the right side of the page.
Correct.
So scroll down, it says requirements, able to, the following information is for. Okay, there we go. Cool. All right, I think I see where you can get started with that. Thank you.
Yeah, great question. Thank you for working through it.
If folks want a direct link, it looks like Holly just dropped that in the chat as well. So as far as what's next, after the webinar, I'll be sending out a link to register for that April 1st training. Again, if you're not able to attend, please send me or Kenny an email and we can work out something with you separately just to make sure you're up to speed with training. And then with the links, you'll have access to register for volunteer shifts. As Kenny said, you'll want to go through the background check and those details first. So just please make sure you have time to orient yourself with the paddle team website and the portal and all of that stuff. And then optional opportunities are that April 20th on the water training that we've talked about. I'll send out a link for that as well. You're welcome to register and attend that. And then we also have an opportunity happening on June 12th as an educational opportunity with the Multnomah County Drainage District. And it's just a paddle team volunteer opportunity where we'll get on the water, learn a bit more about the levee system that I believe Kenny was discussing, have dinner together, and more of an opportunity to get to know other people on the paddle team as well. And with that, we have actually completed the presentation super early, so you get a lot of your night back, and open to any questions that folks have.
So I do have another question for you.
Yeah.
And that is, I think it was mentioned that if this wasn't your first year,
Mhm.
right? And that wasn't a convenient date, that it wasn't that the in-person, this would be like my 4th year, right? Mostly I went to outdoor Afro events that we did, but how would I be able to coordinate if that date didn't work for me?
Yeah, so if you attended training in 2022, then you
I
can
did.
bypass in-person training this year. It's not required for you.
Okay, I did. I think I was there with Zora and those other people.
Okay, yeah, then you're all good to go. This is anybody's welcome to attend. If you want a refresher, then great, you're welcome to come. But if you attended in 2022, not required.
Okay, thank you.
Yeah.
I have a question.
Yeah, go ahead.
I've only done the Spanish bilingual paddle boarding, and a lot of the events were when I have my son, he's 5, and they were open to me bringing him to the events. Are you guys also open for me to bring him to these events? Because I don't have childcare during the week.
That is a good question, and actually not something that we've discussed. It perhaps would be dependent on the event, and being a paddle team leader is important to have 100% attention on all of the participants. I can get back to you on that.
Sure, thank you.
Yeah. If there's other questions, feel free to just jump in.
And if you have not at the moment written your name in the chat, please put your first and last name so we can record everyone that was here.
This is maybe kind of a remedial question, but do we bring paddle gear, or is there paddle gear when we arrive that we're going to use?
Kenny, do you want to take this one?
like a kayak or a paddleboard? Or do we bring our own?
That's a great question. It will depend on the event, and it will depend on your role in that event, because we will need leads, we will need captains. If you're a captain, you'll be in the vessel with participants. If you're a lead, you'll be out in your own vessel or one of ours if you'd like to use one of ours. So I think communicating in advance will be the best way for each event that you sign up to determine if you want to bring your own gear or use our own.
I have another question. In the water safety class, is like first aid CPR covered? That kind of stuff, or is it just how to be safe on the water?
Mostly how to be safe on the water. It's going to cover how to read water. We'll talk about safety scenarios should somebody fall in, and different things you might encounter while on a paddle. There is conversation about hosting a CPR and first aid course that'll be free to paddle team participants. However, it's probably going to be a little bit closer to summer and not at that safety training. Good question. And someone in the chat had just asked where this recording for the Zoom will be available. And it will be accessible in the paddle team portal. And I'll also send an email follow-up when I send out the links later this evening.
Can I ask another question before we wrap up?
Yeah.
Of course,
So I've actually come to events when either I volunteered or just joined events that were there, or events that I put on with Outdoor Afro. And I'm wondering, are there other times that we can come? Like I see other people that are out there when we're there, or they're leaving when we start an event or whatever. Can we as paddle team members, I've got my own like inflatables and foldables and all types of kind of, can we just go out there to the area by ourselves, or do we have to make arrangements for that? How does that work?
Good question. Yeah, you're definitely welcome to utilize the space. It's free public space for your own events. If you're wanting to take out friends or do things on your own, that's totally fine. With the council and the events that we're hosting, we hope to bring boats, bring safety participants, so people who don't know where or how, making paddles more accessible to those folks.
Okay, great. Thank you. I appreciate that.
Yeah, and Daryl, we have some resources on our website as well that will show you different locations you can paddle. So feel free to go to our resource section on our website and poke around, or contact me specifically if you're like, I want to know more. And that goes for everyone here.
I just thought about, oh, excuse me, may I ask a question?
Yeah, Carolyn, go ahead.
I just thought about this. Sometimes I have a problem with transportation since I don't drive, and most of the events are not on a bus line or max line. What is the best stop? Because to get to that area, because I'm trying to figure out my transportation.
Yeah, a majority of our events are going to be at Whitaker Ponds throughout the summer, which is
okay.
a bus stop. I want to say it's 0.2 miles from Whitaker Ponds, so a bit of a walk, but still fairly close.
Okay, as long as I can get a lift from the last bus stop to Whitaker Ponds, I'm good. Thank you.
Yeah, of course. We are branching out to host events in more places this year than we had last year. The event last weekend was at Smith and Bybee. We're hoping to get a bit more time at Smith and Bybee before summer. There's also 166 in Airport Way, and a number of other locations that are closer to bus lines.
Okay, thank you.
Hey,
Yeah.
Carolyn, just put the word out on the paddle team lists or email, and see if anyone is kind of coming your way or riding from your way and are willing to carpool. I've seen a lot of that, the success stories happen that way too, and getting people. We're a friendly bunch.
Okay, now I'm trying to find the paddle team website here.
All right, so
Yeah.
I'm gonna jump in here. I see a question from Stephen in the chat. Stephen asked, is there going to be some kind of non-slip material put onto the loading ramp? It is slippery. So there's a lot of factors that go into this question. The Whitaker Ponds dock, which I want to assume you're referring to, is that correct, Stephen? Okay, so this is a Portland Parks and Recreation property. And as you know, that's the government, and they have a lot of steps and processes to do changes. We are in communication with them currently about that dock and hoping that we get some momentum on making it a more accessible dock for all sorts of abilities. At this time, the only thing that we have done to accommodate the issue of it being slippery or crowded is to alter how we do loading for events, which you'll be able to see that at the in-person training, how we've kind of attempted to make it as safe as we can with what we have. Is that a satisfactory enough answer? No? Oh, I really wish there was more we could do at the moment. If anyone ever has any thoughts or ideas, I'm happy to share them with Parks and see if we can do anything.
Mm-hmm.
Maybe we should all advocate to the parks through their email or something and call them and tell them to needs to be done.
That is very welcome. Yes.
There is a Portland Parks reporting system, which is probably the best way. If they get 50 reports from all of the volunteers here with the same request, that would definitely pique their interest. All right, so let's see. I'm sorry, there are more questions in the chat here. We have a question about, are we opening up to the public again this year?
Oh, that's referencing the 166 site.
Okay.
Which the 166 and Airport Way site, I think is what that's referencing, which it is currently gated off to the public. It's a Portland Water Bureau property, to my knowledge, which does need to remain gated off. When we have events there, we'll open up that chain link gate so people can park there and we can get our boats in, but it would remain closed as far as public access to parking. And then Blair, I saw you had a hand up. Do you want to jump in?
Sure, although I think I figured it out. I was doing the volunteer application for the Reynolds School, and I wasn't sure which school to pick, if any, but then I saw you have handy dandy instructions if I scroll down on the page in the paddle portal. So I think I figured it out, but I guess a PSA to other people to scroll down in the instructions page because they have instructions.
It's a confusing application, so please don't hesitate to speak up or reach out if you have any questions at all about that application page.
Please do.
Where is the page again, please? Because I'm trying to find it here. Or
so if you on our main website page, we have title links, and one of them is Get Involved. You click the Get Involved,
okay.
and then you select Volunteer.
Okay, I'll have to do it when I get home.
Okay.
Yeah.
And if you want to schedule a time to talk on the phone, Carolyn, please email me or I can reach out to you.
Okay. Because we're going to be, yeah, I'll do that.
All right. Yeah, you got it.
Thank you.
Mm-hmm.
And questions about the password in the chat. The password is, I will also type it in the chat, but it is Paddle Team 2023, capital P, capital T.
No spaces.
No space.
And yes, it is the same password for the paddle team portal and for the calendar.
And folks are welcome to jump off if you need, but we will hang out as long as people have questions. So don't
But
hesitate.
we really can't sign up for stuff until we go through the background check. Is that right?
You can sign up. You can sign up now.
Okay.
I would recommend not signing up for the youth paddles yet. I would say to wait until maybe midweek. I'm going to reach out to everyone that does have that background check completed already to inform them that they don't need to do it again. And then if you have not ever completed one before, go ahead and get started on that. But you may sign up for any of these at this time.
Okay.
And another question in the chat, how long does it take to get the background checks back?
All right, so Heather, I'm gonna go to you for the Portland Parks and Rec one, if you're still around. But the Reynolds School District one takes around 2 to 3 weeks.
The Portland Parks and Rec ones takes about a week maximum. We're going to be submitting a lot, so it might be a little bit longer, but not very long.
And we have a question about life jackets. We do provide life jackets. And we have all the way from infant sizing up to, I believe, 3X, I want to say. So wide variety of sizing. Life jackets do need to be worn while on the water for all events, from paddle team members, all participants. Yes, so we have that covered. And do background checks have to be updated yearly?
They have to be up for Reynolds School District. They have to be updated yearly. So the youth paddles, just any youth, anything with us, once a year. The PP&R one, I believe it's good for 3 years.
Which I think kind of answers the next question. If you've completed a background check in the past, you have to get a new one. They've been retired for 10 years. And the answer would be yes, you do have to get a new one. So they expire every so often.
It's one of those processes where if you've already been a mandatory reporter, you still have to do it because it's a different entity checking.
Mm-hmm.
So. These are really great questions. You all are asking the right ones.
And how do we go about getting the background check? Kenny, do you want to go into that a little bit more again?
Yeah. Again, so on the paddle team page, I'm gonna just copy the link one more time, put it fresh in here. You go ahead and click that link. On the right-hand side, where it says requirements, step 2 is background checks. If you click on that link, it'll have everything you need to know. And if there's something that you need help with, you can reach out to me. Is anyone having any issues finding that that page? I'm going to put the direct link to the background checks in now.
There was a question from Annie. Are more events going to be added as the summer comes up? And there definitely will. There's a lot more events to be added. Right now, for folks who've checked out the paddle team calendar, it's only through mid-June. And there's a lot that'll be added all the way through October. It'll be fairly busy. So a lot of opportunities to get involved. If you work on the weekends, there's plenty of stuff to do during the weekdays. We have morning paddles, we have evening paddles. So hoping that something works for everybody on this call.
Kenny, there's a question in the chat asking about how many volunteers are needed for each event and where it's listed.
Yeah, that's a good question. I have it in kind of a sneaky, hard to discover way. So if you go to the calendar and you want to sign up for that event and you click sign up for that event, it'll tell you if the event is full or not. So if you can put in your information, that means that you can volunteer. But specifically asking how many volunteers are needed for each event, that really depends on the size of the group that is going to be at the event, or if it's a festival. So there's a large variety. And I didn't list any specific numbers because if we need to change it on the back end, that's one less step for me to do.
Okay, one question, in terms of the position, we don't have to put a position for this, do we? Because volunteers already checked there.
Correct.
Okay, so we don't have to put a position in sight. Is that correct?
Yeah.
Okay.
And Michael asked a good question. Can volunteers propose an event? Reach out to Amanda. Absolutely.
Yes, please. We're always looking for more community partners. If there's someone else that you work with outside of the council, and whether or not we've worked together, partnered together before, would love to make more connections, new connections, and definitely a lot of room in the calendar to still be adding things. So yes, please propose events.
Hey, Carolyn, are you going to ask a question?
Oh, yes, I didn't know my microphone was on. The thing about it is the website isn't very accessible. I'm trying to zoom in to fill out this form, but it's just not working here. Or then it could be me. So is there a way that I can contact you so we can fill this out?
Absolutely. Yes. All the forms are really hard to fill out on phones. That is a big technical issue. Carolyn, I'm going to schedule a time for you and I to talk, and we'll work everything out. Does that sound good?
Okay, that's good.
Okay.
I'm having a hard time trying to get this. Thank you.
You're welcome.
And currently, if you click on April 22nd, looks like the Birders link sign up goes to SLU School link. Maybe wrong link for that event. We will get that updated.
So I see the form is a PDF. So you want us to print it out and fill it out that way?
You can do it digitally. If that, whatever your preferred method is, you can fill it out, send it to us. You can scan it, send it to us. You can fill it out digitally and send it to us.
I'm not seeing the option to do the digital thing.
It's like a third party kind of application. It wouldn't be through our webpage.
Oh, okay.
PDFs tricky.
Glad to see that everyone is in there and doing it right now. The background check is the most confusing piece of this. So thanks for patience and figuring that out, guys. And thank you for dropping in that in the chat, Mary. Mary just listed Portland Park switchboard phone number and a maintenance main number. All right. And I guess if there are no other questions, then we can wrap this up. We'll linger for a few more minutes if folks wanted to if you're headed off. We'll linger for a few extra minutes if people wanted to stay on and ask more one-on-one questions. We'll be here for that. But otherwise, we are really looking forward to y'all attending our events and helping to support us in 2023. Thanks all.